Hi friends, I'm Amy and this is A-Star Reads, and today we're going on a book crawl, and I'm super excited because, well, you saw my last book crawl. It was a lot of fun, and I get new books. Sometimes they're books that I'm really looking forward to, and it's my dog and cat they're playing. And sometimes they're books that I don't get a choice in. So today, Mom and I are gonna actually go around Whatcom County, which is where we live in Washington, and we're gonna hit 4 different bookstores. And while we're there, Mom is gonna be deciding my fate. She's gonna be flipping the coin and deciding if it's heads, I get to pick whatever I want from that bookstore. If it's tails, we will do random number generating in order to find a random book that I will have to buy and read, which is a little frightening, I'll tell you. Especially because in the last round, as you saw, Nathaniel wasn't so good at flipping the coin. This morning I made pumpkin waffles. I got the waffle mix from Trader Joe's, so we're fueling up. Mom made coffee. By the way, this pumpkin pancake / waffle mix at Trader Joe's is a winner. Absolute winner. We're gonna be hitting 4 places. One of them is Ferndale, which is the small town that has a really cool used bookstore. I love this place. It's called Cozy Corner Books and something, maybe coffee. He always has books that surprise me. It's like I got City of Brass recently there. He does get quite a variety. And then we're gonna be going into downtown Bellingham, where there's this place called Henderson's Books that is very well known here and very popular, but Mom and I have never been there before. So I'm excited about checking out a new bookstore in this area. And then finally we'll go down to Fairhaven, and we're gonna hit 2 bookstores that we know very well. One is Village Books, which is our local bookseller that sells a lot of new books. And then we will also hit Eclipse Books. Eclipse Books is a really fun thrift bookstore because it has books everywhere, and there's stacks of books everywhere. If Mom gets tails on that one and I have to randomize the shop, it's gonna be tricky because there's books literally everywhere, and some of them are not in order, so it's gonna be fun. These are all places that if you're ever in Washington, or if you're in Canada near Vancouver, if you'd like to come down, hit Whatcom County, see a couple of our great bookshops here, you wouldn't be disappointed. Okay, so we are at Cozy Corner Used Books, and Mom is gonna she's gonna determine my fate with my cute little coin. If you don't remember, this is a coin that I got from an Owl Crate box, and on one side it says smooth sailing, and on the other side it says rough seas. So smooth sailing means I get to pick whatever book I want. Rough seas means all the choice is taken from me. So let's see what Mom can do. Okay, I need good things, Mom. I need good things. Yes! I get to pick my own book. I get to pick my own book. Thank you. We need you to flip and not Nathaniel. This is great. Okay, smooth sailing. So we're looking good here. Okay, so we came to get me a book, and guess who got a book instead? Well, as well.
I wasn't going to buy any books. I was just supposed to flip the coin. But this looked really good, and I love detective stories. And this is the first time for this writer, Lauren Belfair. So I'm excited.
And then I decided to get Kristin Hannah, The Great Alone. So when Shell does her, she actually plays my game as well, the game of Bookish Life. And when she does her spins, I help her pick her books, because I have fun doing that. So I get to help her pick her books. And one of the books I had her pick recently was The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. And this actually isn't on my own TBR, but, you know, of course I've heard a lot of things about Kristin Hannah. And for some reason, whatever this book is about, it's about Alaska and this family in Alaska. It fulfilled one of her prompts. And she gave it 5 stars. She loved it. So I was like, well, I made Shell read it. I better do my due diligence and read it as well. So that was my choice, and we chatted with the owner. He's wonderful. If you're ever here in the Whatcom County area, please check out Cozy Corner Books. Also, we got free bookmarks. So mine says, "Coffee is a liquid hug for your brain." His wife does stamping and has been doing stamping for many, many years. And so there's little bookmarks that you can get when you buy a book. And this was mine, which I think is adorable. And Mom's is somewhere. And this is Mom's. It says, "Cute and cuddly, slow down and enjoy life." So that's really cute too. We had fun. I find that when I come back here, he always has something new. So this is a great place to get a lot of fantasy books, a lot of different types of romance, older romance. And then he actually has a really large fiction section. So great store, great stop, very friendly service. Absolutely love it. Okay, so it's time to review The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. And this was my very first Kristin Hannah book. And I can see the appeal. I feel like when it comes to her stories, at least based off this first one, we're going to get a lot of emotion and a lot of atmospheric mosquito. That was a big mosquito too. We're going to get a lot of atmosphere. We're going to get a lot about the time period. I feel like there was definitely nods to the 1970s in this, because it was set in the 1970s, but also not like so obvious that you're like, okay, the intention of this is a historical fiction. You're really pulled into the story. I will say that it did take a while to get into it, although I was enjoying the process of getting to know these characters. But because it took a little while, I think that my connection with the characters didn't ever... I mean, that's not true completely, but I didn't completely connect to the main characters. I think my favorite character was Matthew Walker, who is Lenny's best friend. He's her best friend. And I just loved his character from the very beginning all the way through the very end. Large Marge, is that her name? I loved her. And Lenny was a great character. She's a character that grew a lot, but she was also, I don't know, for some reason, the main characters of Lenny, her mother, and Ernst. Well, Ernst, obviously, it's hard to love Ernst, but I just didn't connect quite as much to those characters as I did to some of the other characters in the story. And yet, I feel like there is so much character development in this, and you really do get a great perspective of what's going on with these individuals, and I really enjoyed that. Is this a story where the extreme gets more and more extreme, and then when you think things couldn't get any worse, they get way worse, like way worse? Yes, there's a bit of trauma porn in this, and I'm curious if this is true for all of Kristin Hannah's books. Like, things just continuously get worse and worse and worse, and even things that you wouldn't think are possibilities for the story come in and destroy your characters even more. And so I don't know if it needed to go as far as it did. I don't know that it needed to go that far, but it did, and I still really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 stars because I really liked it. I think the writing is incredibly atmospheric. I loved how she depicted Alaska. I thought it was so stunning. And I also really loved how she created this community among all these people. You can see the worst sides of people, the absolute worst aspects of humanity, but then you could also see the best sides of humanity and how they can come together and protect each other and care for each other and love each other. Yeah, I cried. I definitely cried many times throughout this story because it was so emotional. There are definitely trigger warnings for abuse, domestic abuse. I highly recommend checking those before you go into it because sometimes it gets a bit brutal, and I don't want you to be surprised going into this. I do highly recommend this if you like historical fiction, you like stories of survivorship or being a survivor, and if you love a book where the setting is almost another character in its own right. In this case, I feel like Alaska becomes its own character. Then I do highly recommend this one. I think you'll love it. Good luck, good luck, good luck. That's not good luck.
I'm sorry.
So I've never actually been in Henderson's before, so we will see what the layout of the land is like, and then we'll do our random number generating. Okay, so this place is massive, and I'm gonna just do 1 to 100 and start counting actual bookshelves, only of topics that I actually would read, and I'll count down. I've got 85 to go, so it'll take a while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have to count how many are on there.
38.
38. Okay, we got 28. Start from the top.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Letters from Skye.
By who?
Jessica Brockmole.
Okay, so that was hugely overwhelming. And so I did the best I could as far as randomizing. There were a few of the bookshelves that I didn't count. You saw that I only counted from a certain level down because I couldn't reach the top ones, and I just figured I'll just go with the...
Said don't look for the top ones yourself.
Yeah, I would have had to ask for help, and I just wanted to make it easy. So this is the book I ended up with, Letters from Skye, though, and it's a historical fiction set in World War II, but in the Isle of Skye in Scotland, and I actually think this is a great choice, and it's not too chunky. And it sounds interesting, something I never would have picked up because I've never heard of it before. So I'm excited about this one. And then what'd you get?
Mother wasn't going to pick up any books. I've got my second books. I got Old Friends and New Fancies by Sybil G. Brighton. And it's actually a sequel to Jane Austen books written in 1913. I'm like...
It's a fan fiction. It's Jane Austen fan fiction is what it is.
Isn't that crazy?
Which sounds like fun.
We love Jane Austen.
Yeah. So I was looking in that book, Letters from Skye, and it is epistolary format, so meaning it's written in letters, and it kind of reminds me, you know, based off of the time period and where in general part of the world it's located, kind of reminds me of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Pie Society, which it probably isn't just like that, but it's similar. It gives me those vibes, so I'm excited about that one. Okay, so I have finished Letters from Skye by Jessica Brockmole. I did enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed it well enough. I'm gonna give it a 3.25 stars, which to me is a little less than right smack dab in the middle. I think there were moments of this that I enjoyed more than others, and it really took me a long time to get invested in the characters. I never connected to the characters. I feel like I never connected to the characters. So let me tell you what it's about first. This is an historical fiction that is epistolary, meaning it's all written in letter form, and it's about these two characters. We have the first character, our female character. I don't remember her name right now. I'll put it up here. She's a poet, and she lives on the Isle of Skye in Scotland, and her husband's a fisherman. In the beginning of this, she gets a letter from this guy from America, and he's a college student in Chicago? I don't think he's in Chicago at the time of this. Where is he? I can't remember. He just is really impressed with her poetry, and so he wants to write to this author. So they start this communication between each other that lasts for years, actually, for a long time. And at least in the beginning, it appears to be harmless, but you write someone that often, and things maybe aren't going as smoothly in your life as you'd like. feelings might start forming. So at one point, her husband goes off to war during World War I, and the letters and stuff escalate. And this story really is about her and this American who ends up volunteering during World War I to be an ambulance driver. And then, of course, the letters that continue back and forth between the two of them. And then we actually have another timeline, which is their current time, which is during World War II. We're revisiting the daughter of our main character and the discoveries that are being made about these letters and whatnot. And this is really what this whole story is about. It's about this romantic relationship that blooms between this Scottish woman and this American man during World War I, while she's still married. So, I mean, that's a topic that is not fun. Infidelity is not always the funnest thing to read, but I realize that when it comes to stories, you're going to get different perspectives, different situations and scenarios, and in real life, these kind of things happen. So I don't condone these kind of relationships. At the same time, I can read books about them, and they don't faze me as much as far as, I don't want to read it. So that was fine. I didn't like that part, but it was fine. I just didn't connect to the characters. I think epistolary novels work sometimes, and if you're really good at writing them, then they work really well. However, in this case, because it was epistolary, I feel like we never got very close to our characters' emotions and feelings. Even though they were writing about their emotions and feelings in these letters, it just felt like you were always at arm's length, and so building up the sympathy that you would need to be able to understand and enjoy this story, even though there's infidelity involved, it just didn't happen. And so I didn't like the characters throughout the story. And the story itself was interesting at times, but I didn't feel like there was anything that really grabbed me and brought me in. And so for me, this wasn't an amazing story that I wanted to pick up and was super excited about. It didn't do what the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society did as an epistolary novel. And that one was compared to this one. So I figured, it should be similar in that way. I was able to make it through. I did enjoy it at times. I felt like towards the end I was enjoying it a lot more, which may have actually brought up my rating from a 3 or somewhere in the 2-star range. I did cry because I've been emotional lately, so I think everything's making me cry right now. But it did make me cry. It did elicit some emotions, mostly with the relationships with other family members, not the romantic relationship. It was more the relationship between family members that had been torn apart because of things. I don't know if I'd recommend this one. It was fun to pick up a book that I had no knowledge of before and randomly read this different book, but it took me a while to get through it because I was a little just lackluster about it. So that was my experience. I think if you are really, really into epistolary novels, if you're really, really into World War I, and infidelity in stories doesn't make you want to run to the hill screaming, then I say pick it up, give it a try. It's going to work for some people, even if it didn't necessarily work all that amazingly for me. So now we're heading to Fairhaven, which is this very cute part of Bellingham, and we're going to be hitting Eclipse, Used Books, and Village Books. Okay, I'm putting a request for a good spin, Mother. That was a good spin.
Oh. It's upside down.
Ha! Smooth sailing! Okay, so that one was a hard one for me to decide because there were quite a few books that I picked up that I was really interested in. So I was like, what do I really want to read right now? This one actually was on my TBR, so I've put this as a book that I want to read anyways. So I figured, let's knock another one of those off my TBR, and it just seems like a fun one to read right now. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendricks. I've actually never read any Grady Hendricks books. I know that some people enjoy them, some people don't. I'm hoping that I'll enjoy them.
Sounds like a good October book.
This won't be coming out in October, so who knows when I'll actually get to read it. I am getting the Halloween vibes right now because of it being October, so this is a good choice for that too. So, I have finished My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendricks. It's taken me a little while to come back to this one and review it, and I don't know why. I don't know if I just didn't know how I felt about it, or if just trying to pull my thoughts together about how I wanted to review this was a little difficult. I think I'm going to give this one a 3.75 stars, and that means that I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time reading this one, but I had really mixed feelings about it. The funny thing is that I read this one really quickly. I had a hard time putting it down. So even though I'm giving it a 3.75 stars, which still is a good rating, for me it's a good rating, I did find this very readable and I wanted to pick it up and continue going. I think as I think back to it, for me, I wanted either it to be more campy. So if we're going campy, we're going for the 1980s exorcism feel, I wanted to lean into that a little more heavily. I want it to be a little more campy or a little more scary. I felt like there were some moments in this where it could have gone a lot further. I think this is an adult novel. If it's an adult novel, to me, it felt incredibly YA. And that's not only because it had main characters that were teenagers. I felt like it was just really YA in the execution. It didn't feel as campy or scary from an adult perspective as I would have liked. And so even though I enjoyed it and I had a hard time putting it down, I just wanted a little more from it. I kind of wanted it to go a little darker. You know, I did want it to go a little darker, and I felt like there were dark ideas in this and there were dark concepts, but it never went that far. And for a horror, and I guess especially adult horror, I expected to go just that little bit further that makes me more uncomfortable. I wasn't that uncomfortable reading this. I wasn't that freaked out. I wasn't that scared. It was creepy in the ideas that were in this, but I really didn't have a lot of feelings about how creepy it was as I was reading it. You've got these two characters, Abby and Gretchen. They're best friends. They've been best friends since they were young, and they both have things going on in their lives that make them struggle when they first meet each other. They kind of come along throughout their high school years and they become more popular. They are very interesting characters, and I can't say that I liked them a bunch throughout this whole story, especially Abby, our main character that we follow her perspective. I can't say I loved Abby the whole time. I thought she wasn't the most likable person. And the motives of these different teenagers, granted they were teenagers, obviously teenagers make really poor choices often. I didn't have a ton of sympathy at times, which is not good when this horrible situation is happening. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And you want to feel sympathetic for these characters, but you're just a little like, ugh. What I did find interesting about this and what I liked about it was the theme of friendship and how important friendship is for the trajectory of the story and why it matters, why that is the thing that is holding everything together in a sense. Sometimes the only people we have in our lives that are really there for us are our friends. And so I really did think that that was a good message to be sent through this. And I did enjoy that. So like there were aspects and points of this that I really did like. As a brief overview, Abby is our main character and she has a best friend named Gretchen. Like I said, they've become friends since they were in the 5th grade, and Gretchen gets possessed. And so it's basically Abby trying to, for one, figure out what's going on with her friend who is changing drastically, and nobody else is trying to figure out like what is actually going on except Abby, and then her trying to get help for her friend. And I felt like the exorcism scenes and all the things that happen within this were really well written and they were very clear, but maybe I just wanted a little more detail to set a tone. You know, like give me a little bit more detail so that I feel in the moment, because I don't think I was in the moment, and that's why it didn't feel as scary or creepy or even campy to me. So a lot of things about this were great and a lot of fun, but not necessarily the most horrifying horror story that I've read recently. So now we're going to go to Village Books, which is right down the street, and I don't know if we'll find parking there. This might have been a best parking spot, but we'll
find some.
She'll find something closer. Okay, so we're now at Village Books. Let's see what we're gonna get.
Oh,
Yeah! So I'm excited about this smooth sailing for this one because Village Books has new books, mostly new books. I get to pick a new book. So I've got to be honest, I did go into Village Books with a bit of a purpose. I knew that I wanted to get Recursion by Blake Crouch because I love dark matter so much. And then Jeremy Fee was telling me in my review for dark matter that Recursion was even better. So I was like, yeah. So I ended up picking up another book. I picked up James S.A. Corey, Cibola Byrne. This is the 4th book in the Expanse series because it was $10. So, I mean, it was worth it to me, and it was used, but it looks like it's in really good shape, and I know that I'm going to love this series. So I got an old-fashioned, and Mom got a pineapple ginger mojito. So I got the French dip with tempura fried green beans. Those look amazing. I love French dip. I'm a total sucker for French dip. And then, like I said, they have the best crab mac and cheese here in all of Bellingham. What do you think, Mom?
and bacon. You didn't forgot the bacon.
Oh, and
part.
she added bacon to it. What'd you get, Mama?
I got Enter the Aardvark by Jessica Anthony. It's a queer book, and I do enjoy reading queer books, so I'm looking forward to reading this. It sounds kind of interesting.
You got a dog hair on your nose.
Is it still there?
It's gone.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let's talk about Recursion by Blake Crouch. I did actually read this for another vlog and saved the review for this vlog. If you would like to find out what all my thoughts were while I was reading this, I will link that vlog up here so you can go check it out. So when it comes to my actual rating of this, I've been wavering between a 4 and a 4.25 stars. Now this is still on the high end of my ratings. I really enjoyed this so much. There was a lot about this that was scary to me. There were a lot more moments of this that felt unnerving and frightening to me, which was much different than my experience reading Dark Matter. Now, I read Dark Matter first, and that one I gave 5 stars to. It was more thriller, and it was exciting. I loved it all the way through, from start to finish. And although there were moments of this that were so much more impactful than even Dark Matter, like there were specific scenes in this where it was just so realistic, it was frightening or devastating. However, there were more times that I was pulled in and out of this book. Like the reading experience wasn't as fluid as my reading experience for Dark Matter. And I think that that was the only reason why this one doesn't quite reach that same rating. Probably 4.25 stars. When I'm thinking back to those emotional moments, those impactful moments, I have to say there were moments that I was in there with these characters and I was feeling the same level of emotions, maybe not exactly the same, but I was feeling a lot of the same emotions. And the detail in this, the detail that Blake Crouch brings to the story makes it feel very realistic. And of course, the scientific elements that he incorporates makes it also feel very realistic, like it could possibly happen. So I do think there were so many wonderful elements to this, and I would like to read it again at some point. Maybe I would have liked a little more character development since we were focusing on character emotion a little bit more. Where in Dark Matter, I didn't feel like the character development was as important because we were focusing more on the pace and the thrill. This one we focused a lot more on emotions, and so maybe a little bit more character development would have made it even stronger for me. And then the ending, I don't want to say that it was anticlimactic because what happened is what needed to happen. And I'm glad that it happened the way it did. But based on my experience reading the whole of this book, I think that that ending did kind of slow me down quite a bit, slow my enjoyment down, and that's probably why I'm rating it a little less high. I'm realizing now that I didn't give any synopsis of this at all, and I don't want to give too much because I feel like this book should be experienced as you read it. But I will say that it has a lot to do with time travel and has a lot to do with the brain and memories and stuff. We have a main character named Barry who has lost his daughter when she was a teenager. He's a cop, and he's dealing with a situation that leaves him confused as to what to do next. He's trying to talk someone down from a ledge who is suffering from this syndrome called false memory syndrome that nobody really knows anything about, but it causes you to feel like you've had multiple lifetimes. And then we've got the other character, Helena, who is this incredible scientist. And she's been trying to create this chair that will help her mother who has Alzheimer's to bring back those memories from the past, bring back memories before she started suffering from Alzheimer's. So that is what Helena's goal is. And the story goes from there. So I finally got around to reading all the books for this particular book crawl. I'm very excited to say that I completed these books that I was very excited about. Well, except maybe this one. I mean, not that I wasn't excited to read it when I finally got it, but I had no clue it was a book before this particular experiment. I had a really good time reading these, even if it took me, I was trying to figure out, like, was it last October? I think it might have been 2 Octobers ago. So I'm very glad I eventually got to these. And this is the order that I rated them in. Great Alone was my favorite. Then came Recursion, My Best Friend's Exorcism, and finally Letters from Skye. And all of them were over 3 stars, so I would consider that a success. And I want to hear what you have to say about these books. How many of these books have you read? What did you enjoy of these books? Did you not? Are you curious about them now? Let me know everything you want to share down in the comment section down below. I hope it won't take me too long to get through the next set of books for my next book crawl so I can get that out to you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens the next time I do a book crawl. Where is that going to be? Where was it? Because I've already done it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.